governments who jail leading presidential candidates, people vying for national leadership, those are the sorts of governments that are antithetical to a constitutional republic. And that's where we are. I can tell you, the Republicans are running away from impeachment. I've been kind of ticked about it this week. I did a video highlighting what I've been finding here in town on the Biden impeachment effort by Republicans on the House. Let's run that video.
Hey everyone, it looks like the Republicans in the House are about to abandon the impeachment of President Biden. They don't have the votes. The leadership hasn't been pushing for the votes, and certainly House leadership hasn't been educating Americans about the urgent need to impeach President Biden over some of the worst corruption we've ever seen by a sitting president. This development comes as President Trump faces a show trial on fake criminal charges by the Democratic machine up in New York. A trial commenced, you can be sure, at the behest of the Biden gang. And as that's happening, Joe Biden's getting a free pass from the House Republicans. Really unacceptable. We need the leadership. And of course, voters can still have a say here. So share your views by calling the House at 202-225-3121. That's 202-225-3121.
Now, of course, you know, if you ask Jim Jordan or probably Congressman Comer or the Speaker or other House leaders, they say, oh no, impeachment's continuing. You know, Tom, don't worry about it. We're still pursuing impeachment. But look, I've been in town in Washington, D.C. longer than I care to admit to. I've seen the stories that have been leaked out there that they don't have the votes for impeachment. They may consider just a referral for criminal activity to the Biden Justice Department. And I've asked repeatedly, haven't gotten an answer. I've asked very well-connected people who are in the position to know what's happening with impeachment, when's it going to happen, what's with these stories suggesting you're running away, and I haven't gotten a straight answer. So I know what's happening, and I can tell you what's happening. The Republicans, if they had their way, would skip a vote at on the impeachment of Joe Biden. That's what the plan is. I think that's what they're hoping they're able to get away with. Just let it die on the vine. Now, in the meantime, there may be impeachment activity, continued investigations, maybe even some litigation from the House to get information. They're getting stonewalled, but it's been mighty slow in terms of breaking through those stone walls. But I'm not convinced at all. And I have good reason to believe that they're going to shelve the impeachment of Joe Biden this year. In the meantime, there's this impeachment of Mayorkas, who was already impeached by the House. And again, to remind you, those of you who don't follow impeachment, those of you normal folks who don't necessarily know what the impeachment process is under our Constitution, let me remind you, the House impeaches someone, the targeted official, in the case of Mayorkas, the Homeland Security Secretary, who essentially has enabled an invasion of the United States. He's been impeached for that. And then it's up to the Senate to conduct a trial, if they so choose, I would argue, and then remove him, or acquit him, or otherwise sanction him. Now, the Senate doesn't even want to do a trial on Mayorkas, so I'm not even sure what's going to happen there. And now the Republicans, it doesn't look like, are planning a vote or are planning to lose a vote on Biden's impeachment. And, you know, I understand that the Republicans have a close-run thing there in the House, with the majority being, I think, effectively a two-seat majority. So, I mean, maybe I think it's one of the most narrow majorities in modern history. So I think they can afford to lose 2 votes, and then they lose control of the House, or, you know, anything they want is knocked out. And but how do you overcome what is it you do to kind of generate support for impeachment, even in a closely, even in a House where you have a small majority? You provide leadership. You put pressure on your members, say this is important, and of course you educate the public as to why the impeachment of Biden is urgent and necessary. And I haven't seen much in the way of any of that recently from House leadership. And that tells me their heart isn't in it, as I suggested. So if you're interested in the impeachment issue of Joe Biden, you should call your House members, your members of Congress, as I said earlier, at 202-225-3121, 225-3121. And you can ask for the Speaker's office. You can call the Speaker's office as well. You can ask for, you call that number. I haven't called it in a bit, so I'm not quite sure how the operators, it may be semi-automated now. So you ask for your House member. You can also ask for the Speaker's office and communicate politely and firmly your views on the impeachment of Joe Biden. Trump could be going to jail, while at the same time, of course, Biden is essentially given a free pass by the one entity that can actually hold him accountable, however mildly, the House of Representatives, which is nominally controlled by Republicans. And I hate to remind you, but I will. Those abuses you see up against Trump in New York by Alvin Bragg, Letitia James, those abuses you see down in Fulton County, Georgia by Fani Willis, those abuses you see by Jack Smith against President Trump, all fully funded by the House and Republicans in the Senate. Republican-controlled House, most Republicans in the Senate. I mean, I saw the other day they had Director Wray, the FBI director, in for questioning before the House. And, one of the descriptions of the testimony was, is he going to be grilled by Republicans? Get grilled by Republicans for what? All the misconduct and abuse they just fully funded 2 weeks ago? Spare me. Spare me. So that's where we are. Election interference up in New York. They're trying to rig an election by jailing Trump on specious charges. And meanwhile, those who can do better aren't doing it and giving Biden a free pass on his unprecedented corruption. So pray for the country, pray for our republic, because governments who jail leading presidential candidates, people vying for national leadership, those are the sorts of governments that are antithetical to a constitutional republic. And that's where we are. And anyone who pretends there's normalcy these days, it isn't. And I would submit, I've observed before, that the presidential election has already been compromised by this corruption. President Trump has had to spend money he otherwise could have applied to the campaign. He's been otherwise focused on these criminal cases where he otherwise could have been focused on the campaign. It's already compromised the process. So now Judicial Watch will continue its FOIA litigation and telling the truth about what's going on with this corruption, pressing for more information from the deep state and the Democratic Party operatives trying to upend our constitutional republic. But other people in positions of responsibility and who have the capacity also to do the good work to hold government accountable and police misconduct, they also need to step up. So just because Judicial Watch is doing the heavy lifting, it doesn't mean that Congress gets a pass. Because it's important that our country be protected from this abuse, because frankly, the republic is on the line. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and like our video down below.